Let's see if I get it back.
Every Sunday night on KUHSdenver.com.
Well, we are live on Conscious Conversations on KUHSdenver.com. I have successfully done what I knew I was going to do, and it always happens. If if you open trap and you say something before you know the truth or you know what's going on, then you can expect this to happen. I said I'd chase the one gremlin we had away, which was a repeated intro on our show at the beginning of the night. And you know what happens is I looked over and I realized that we'd lost our stream. So I'm going to have to see if I can reconnect that here. Um, and I don't know what happened, but it's the way it is. We're still live on Facebook, and we're going to continue the show because we've got such an interesting topic and a fantastic special guest this evening. I'm with Melissa Mouton of 5280 High School. It's a new concept. It's a charter school, but it's a new concept school based on project-based learning. And I wanted to have you tell our radio audience a little bit about the idea of project-based learning, because I think it's just I'm not sure is the word revolutionary. It's but groundbreaking.
hmm Sure. Project-based learning is something that's it's not really new, but it's had a resurgence in popularity recently. And the idea is that instead of going to class and doing an assignment by working through the book or completing worksheets, students learn the academic content by doing projects. And the projects usually involve creation of some sort, whether you're building something, you're designing something, or you're publishing a book. There's some project, there's some product that at the end will be created and shown to a public audience. And that's another key thing about project-based learning is that it's not just done for the teacher to get a grade. It's done for some real purpose in the real world or to a real audience that has a solution that has a problem that you're trying to solve.
And I think it's like we were talking about it. One of the cool things is that the idea of when I was in high school, I remember if I didn't have music, if I didn't have the idea of music and going to band or that one thing that I was passionate about, man, I wouldn't have wanted to get up and go to school. And I read on your website of what makes a kid excited about the next day of school. I always wondered about those kids that loved school, and then but it's so cool that the idea that your people can be excited about the experience of interaction, not only with other students, but interaction of doing a project that will make a difference in the community.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, every every teen is different and they like different things. And the beauty of project-based learning is that not everybody learns the same thing. And I think parents and educators kind of get freaked out when you think about that. It's like, wait, what a minute, not everybody's going to learn the exact same thing, but that's not it's not really desirable. I mean, we don't need a population of people who all know the same things. We need people who are skilled in the basic skills, but then allowing students to specialize and develop expertise in their areas of strength is actually good for them and good for their soul, but it's also good for our society. And we want to give kids a chance to personalize their education and learn the things that they're really interested in, with the caveat that like there are some basic skills that every student needs to know: reading, writing, math, etc. And so just balancing between those two is really important.
We talked about the idea that we have fallen into a trap, if you will, of in education within the even my mom, who was an educator for years and years. I would remember her talking about, it's all about the tests and not about what they're learning. And some kids test well. I remember hearing my son Jesse, who went to a charter school, and even he said, I get nervous, and I know the material, but I get nervous, and so there's some kind of a block that way. So that prevents people from knowing somebody is really has learned and is learning the material, but if they can't show that on a test, then they don't, it's not a true basis.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's just one way to assess what a kid knows. And if you're not skilled at taking, then you're going to not test well. That's going to be a problem. But I think even a bigger issue is what value does test taking have for preparing kids for today's work? Everybody knows when a kid is taking a test. We've all experienced that, but when are we ever going to take a test in our professional lives? Like it's just not a good assessment for how well a student does to complete a particular task. And so I think it's just inauthentic. And another big problem that we found is kids do not remember what they cram for a test. It doesn't retain. Your brain does not retain it if it's just learned for a purposeless task like taking a test. And so they've done studies from really good schools where kids have done really well on all these tests, and then they have a summer break and they come back and they give them the same test again, even if they remove a lot of the minor detail questions and they leave the questions based on the broad concepts. The average grade goes from a B plus to an F, and that literally no kid is able to retain the major concepts of the classes that they just took 3 months ago. And it's because our brain isn't built to learn that way. It's not built to retain knowledge that is not used authentically. So.
Well, and it's proven over and over again. It seems like whenever you can get hands-on and experience something, that your experience is going to give you that knowledge of all the senses at once, and somehow your that experience is being recorded on how you can, and many times it's learning by doing it wrong and messing up, and then realizing, so next time I'll do this, and then having it go well. It's that experience learning. Plus, think about the benefits. For me, the benefits of interaction with community, interaction with adults, which they're going to need to interact with anyway, other than or in addition to parents, because it's a different relationship.
Yeah, I'd give you a great example of a great project that I saw. It was in a humanities class and a photography class where it was a collaboration between those two classes, and each pair of students tried to answer the question, how do human beings get through really tough situations? They had to figure that out, and they decided to they were studying some war in their humanities class, and they were reading a novel about it. And so they were doing all the academic things, but alongside of that, they each interviewed one veteran and they asked them about their experience and how they actually got through their challenging times. And then they wrote a book and published all their stories. And in talking to those kids who did that, they gained so much empathy for veterans. It was like this intergenerational empathy that was built. And so these young kids had all this empathy that they didn't have before for all these veterans that they were able to hear what they went through, and they just had so much respect. And the same way, the veterans who, through media or whatever, they had these stereotypical preconceived notions about what teenagers today are like, and they don't care, and they're on their phones all the time, and they were really asking thoughtful questions. And so the veterans had really positive hopes about what the youth today and what they were doing. And, just seeing how the students responded to these veteran stories was empowering. They felt like they had to write well, they had to get the grammar right, they had to get the characterization and the plot and everything right in their story, because they were holding somebody's story that needed to be told. And so just that empathy and that connection to people in their community that aren't in their everyday circles it's life-changing. So.
That gives me goosebumps, because that to me is like, that's a connection that's not only community building, but nation building. I mean, it's the kind of thing where you find out where, break down that barrier of that generation gap, find out what that's like. I mean, for instance, I'll bet it would be just as like a project. I just thought of this. Okay, well, these young people understand how stuff works these days because they've learned it from, they've been involved with it from the time that they were very young or babies. So you get a 55-year-old guy like me, okay, that I somehow missed out on when it was time to start grasping word processing computers and things like that. So for them to understand, well, how come this dude doesn't know what to do intuitively on a computer? I mean, I'll bet that would be a great project for because there is that generation gap of those of us that just missed out on that. So now talk about fear. You get behind a computer and you're going, well, I can do this and do that because I've learned this and learned that. But intuitively knowing how it all works and works together and getting all these things together is frightening.
Yeah, I think that's a good project.
And we'll see if we can propose it to some of your students. What an incredible facility. It's 5280 high school. It is it's been approved by the board, and it's as a charter school. And now the next step is to get this beautiful high school with students, teachers, and a building ready to go in 2018. How exciting. I mean, I feel privileged and honored just to get to be able to talk and have a conversation with the founder right here at Unconscious Conversations. It's a big deal. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to dive into the idea, this one part of it, and I've got it's the summit program that we're going to talk about. Very, very special indeed. Unconscious Conversations, right here on KUHSdenver.com. Okay. And we're clear from radio. And if you don't mind, Melissa, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to reestablish
The video.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
See if I can do this. So
It looks something's coming through, at least that audio or something.
yeah, there's something